Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
For those who don't know, I've written a number of books. I continue to write. I got started by writing a novel. It was when I was in law school. I just had a really quirky schedule one summer where I was working from 4 till midnight at the prosecutor's office. A lot goes on in the prosecutor's office from 4 till midnight, trust me. Not all crime happens during the day, and no big shock there. But at any rate, I had kind of an odd schedule, and while I'm working, my friends are home, going to sports, doing whatever, and while they're working with their summer internships, I was at home. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to do something. I'm going to make a productive use of this time. There's really nothing on television, and so I wrote a novel. I novelized my experience playing college football. It's called Out of the Comfort Zone. You can find it on Amazon. Have fun. But at any rate, I wrote the novel, and I didn't really know what to do with it. This was all pre-on-demand printing. To find a printer, you had to find a publisher, or if you were going to self-publish, it was going to be an endeavor that might cost you upwards of $30,000. I know, by the way, you would need a garage to store the 20,000 copies that you had to buy to make it all work. And that wasn't in the cards for me. I, was in school and just working a, minimum wage internship, if you will. So at any rate, I kind of tabled that. But I ran into a guy in law school who, we were just talking, and I'd mentioned I wrote a book, and he had mentioned, I want to be a literary agent. I want to help. This is part of why I'm going to law school. I wanted to, it was kind of the ends to his means, or the means to his ends, I should say, of why he was in law school. He wanted to be this this not sports agent but literary agent. So this is cool. I wrote a book, and he said, well, let me read your book. That would be great. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this is my first book. I'm his first client. This would be awesome. And so he read the book, and he came back at me, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. He never got me published. We never worked together at all, because he read the book and he was just like, "Why the hell would you do that? That's stupid. You're stupid." That was kind of his approach to me. I wouldn't have done that, and it was just he was brutally honest with me, and it was brutally painful. And he might have been right, but his approach was all wrong. Last week I released episode 813. This is episode 815, and in 813 I talked about the empowering nature of being honesty, and studies show that if you're honest with somebody, you actually serve to build that relationship, and there's truth to that. But I also in that episode talked about the one person's approach. David Grove's approach was one that was very, very caring and empathetic, if you will. And interestingly enough, things kind of come into your life when you need them, or just coincidentally, or however you want to, however you want to put it. But I got an email from Bob Berg. Just I'm not on his newsletters, and not that he emails me directly. I know Bob. Bob knows of me. Whatever. I don't want to. I don't want to conflate the situation. Bob just didn't email me. Hey, Frank, had an idea. He's emailing thousands of people, maybe millions. I don't know. But I'm on his email list, and one of the emails talks about honesty. And here's his quote. I love this quote. Those who take pride in being brutally honest are typically much more interested in being brutal than they are in being honest. And that epitomizes my conversation with this wannabe literary agent. I've gone on and I've written books. I've never been picked up by a publisher. A lot of my stuff is self-published, but I sell a lot of books, and I do okay writing books. It opens a lot of doors for me. And I've in that particular novel, I've sold a lot of copies of that novel. I'm not getting rich doing it. I'm not trying to overconflate it. But it wasn't the dog that he had made it out to be. Yes, I made some changes to it before I published it. I wrote it initially in 1986, I believe. I wrote it summer of 86, and I didn't actually publish it until probably 2006. So there was 20 years of tinkering with it, and just trying to make it better. But his brutally honest, this wannabe literary agent, and maybe this is why he's never become, and you know I don't even know what he's up to. So take that, you know there there's something in that, right? Um, but he didn't have to come at me the way he did. I mean, he just, I think it's true to Bob's point. He was interested in being brutal. I have the ability. I have the power over this guy. This guy is looking for me to take his book to new heights, or to heights at all. And so I have this, I'm in the position that I'm the whip master and he's the whipping boy, and he's going to take it like I'm going to be brutally honest because that's what this cutthroat industry is all about. And I didn't really want to do anything with them after that. After that initial, yeah, thank you, just give me my book back. I didn't say anything, but that was the last we communicated on any of that. And Bob goes on to share in his newsletter, um, you know, honesty, of course, should be a very high value. Sure, when communicating when communicating a truth, tact and kindness should be paramount as well. In other words, saying, yeah, honesty is important. You've got to be honest with somebody, but there's got to be a level of empathy there. There's got to be, kindness. You have to care about the person you're being honest with. People are going to be much more open to the response, to whatever you're sharing. They're just gonna, when this so-called literary agent was coming at me, it was like I just shut down, right? I don't even know how to process this. Um, and maybe there's some fault in that. I know some people who wouldn't take any crap from them, and I took it. My response was more just to kind of walk away. There's really no sense in trying to battle this person. But if he would have come at me with a more measured approach, I would have been a little more open-minded to continuing to work with him. And maybe he's, never really was going to amount to anything anyways. He was just talking. I don't know. Um, but being brutally honest, it doesn't work. And I know people who will say, well, that's just how I am, right? You need to be able to just take it. Um, Accept me for who I am. And you know what I do? Uh, I do accept you for who you are. If you want to be brutally honest, I accept you for who you are. It doesn't mean I need to deal with you. And I think that's true of everybody. We can be very direct. You have the ability, certainly in the United States of America, to have the ability to be very direct and say what you want to say. But you also, if you have that ability, then you have to accept the consequences. You have to accept that people don't like that. For the most part, nobody likes to be the whipping boy. Nobody likes to be on the on the end of direct barbs. People don't like that. Um, and there's a limitation there. You know, I'm brutally honest, and people don't want to do business with me. They don't have to do business with me. Okay, okay, thank you. I'm not doing business with you. That's my response. I'm not only not doing business with you, I'm not going to refer you to somebody because I don't want you coming at my network with that sort of brutal honesty. To think that you have this right to be brutally honest like that. Bob goes on to share, people are considerably more likely to be open and responsive to feedback, and accept the feedback when it's provided with tact and appropriate direction, as opposed to verbal attacks. And he shares that sometimes people are brutally honest because they don't know any other way. And if you're somebody who's brutally honest and prides yourself on being brutally honest, find a different way. Find a different way. Just think about the people. Think how you want to be approached. For me, I want to be approached with somebody who, yeah, you know what, I don't want to be publicly humiliated. I don't want this to, a private conversation is fine. I'm not stupid. Don't call me stupid. Don't make the attacks personal or anything like that. Just share what you see, and know that what you're sharing. I mean, obviously there are things that if 2 + 2 = 4, and if I have it equaling 5, then I'm dead wrong. But if my way of getting to 4, your way of getting to 4 is 2 + 2 = 4, and mine's the square root of 16. You know what? We can argue about what's the better way to 4. They're just two different ways. I'm open to hearing what you have to say, but I'm not dumb. So anyhow, honesty is the best policy, but not all honesty is the best policy. There needs to be some measure. There needs to be some empathy. There needs to be caring about the person who you are being honest with.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.